Hello, passengers. Welcome aboard Long Walk Talks Lost. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley, and I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions. And tonight, I am joined by my two co-pilots,
Robert Bradford,
Cara Hayes.
And we are continuing our discussion of Lost 20 years in retrospect. That was a weird way to say that, but I think you get the point. So before we dive into our themed meal, and the episodes we watched this week, you may notice this episode is releasing on a Friday instead of a Wednesday. We set that Wednesday release date originally to coincide with when Lost originally aired on ABC. Our very own Robert Bradford is in a show at the moment, however, so that's going to put our release off a little bit. It's going to be a little more random. I'd love to say it's Fridays from now on, but really, who the fuck knows? You're going to still get an episode a week. We just don't know when. So, Robert, tell our listeners, some of whom may be local enough, what you're working on.
Certainly. I'm appearing in a production called Puffs, or 7 Increasingly Eventful Years at a Certain School of Magic and Magic. It's basically a show that a group of improv comics out of Chicago got together when they were doing kind of riffs on Harry Potter. And eventually they created this whole story that is legally distinct enough not to get sued by J.K. Rowling and her team, but essentially telling the story of 3 kids and their friends in the background of all the adventures happening for 7 years, just of people trying to attend this school while there's a cosmic battle of good and evil going on. So it's very funny, very fast-paced. If you are even broadly familiar with the Harry Potter stories, I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's a fun show. It's performing out in the Waxhaw area through Waxhaw Community Theater. Going to be June 20th through 22nd and the weekend of June 27th through 29th. So check it out at Waxhaw Community Theater's Facebook page. It's shaping up to be a pretty fun show.
Fantastic. You know, I always wondered what life at Hogwarts was like pre and post Harry Potter.
Terrifying?
Well, I mean, yeah, while Harry Potter and co were there, but like presumably before that, those students just had a regular school experience. Like, yeah, it was, doing wizardy shit and not like long division like the rest of us idiots had to do. But there were decidedly fewer like megalomaniacs trying to kill kids.
Theoretically, anyway.
Theoretically.
I mean, you just think about the basic stuff. Like they teach 11-year-olds to fly around on broomsticks, which have no safety features, no mechanisms, and apparently nobody wears pads or has anything to prevent them from hitting the ground. Clearly tort law doesn't exist in the wizarding world, because otherwise that school would have been sued out of existence.
Yeah. Well, let's not give any more attention to J.K. Rowling. We're going to talk about the TV show Lost. But first, our weekly dinner theme, which we kind of reached for with this one, and we're kind of reaching for next one as well. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode, maybe. We've decided that we're not going to continue doing themed dinners. Seasons 4 through 6, we're going to do something else, change it up a bit, like themed cocktails or some such. But this week, because there was a Nikki and Paolo episode featuring 2 Hispanic-American actors, we had some gringo Mexican. We went to a restaurant here in Rock Hill called El Cancun.
The best.
It was delicioso.
Muy delicioso.
This is going to be another one of those coughing randomly episodes, apparently. So let's kick off our discussion with episode 313, The Man From Tallahassee, which is day 80. And it is a Locke episode.
Yay.
And what a Locke episode it is.
Uh-huh.
We start off with Locke in a flashback at the government's Office of Dramatic Misdirection, because he's sitting across the desk from a government employee who's talking about the benefits for his disability. And it just eventually comes out that his disability is that he's been seeing a counselor for depression, and he gets up out of his chair and storms away when the meeting's over. So it's yet another one where they make us think, oh, Locke, we're finally seeing Locke after he's had his accident in the wheelchair. And no, he is not there at the start of the flashbacks.
No, but we're going to get there. And also, can you claim disability for depression?
I wondered about that.
I mean, maybe because he was conned out of a kid. I don't know.
Yeah, extenuating circumstances, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
I was going to say, because if so, I'm going to file that paperwork on Monday.
Right.
But
Anthony Cooper's ripped off so many people that they passed an act of Congress, like granting benefits to his victims.
Wouldn't surprise me.
have you lost a kidney to a long con? Anyway.
And back in the present, Locke and Co. have arrived at the others. I think Otherton is what the fans called it. the cute little suburban area that the others live in, and they see Jack playing football. Locke peers around and sees Ben, who's now in a wheelchair himself as he recovers from surgery, and gets this great, oh crap, it's my ex look, remembering the guy that he shared all those long and lying conversations with in the hatch.
Locke and Ben might be the best couple on the show.
This episode makes a very strong case for that.
Agreed. A couple that's not a couple exactly. In the flashback when the son of Cooper's latest con, he comes to his door and he knocks and, are you John Locke and da-da-da-da-da. I thought the funniest thing was, how many kidneys do you have? Like, poor John. Like, he just cannot escape this.
No, but that's also like a great icebreaker kind of question. Like, where'd you go to school? What do you do for work? How many kidneys do you have?
And David, you and I, as fans of Justified, will always think of poor, dumb Dewey Crow when we hear that question.
You mean I got 4 kidneys? I'm telling you, Justified needs to be the next show that we do after this. There's like half as many episodes, and it's a great show.
And you'll have me not knowing a damn thing.
Exactly. Anyway, back to the...
Oh, quick note, though, about the son. Did anybody recognize him?
He looked really familiar. Is he the... I'm terrible with...
He's the guy from Suits, one of the 2 leads on that show.
Okay.
Which I have not gotten around to watching, but I was just like, yeah, I feel like I've seen this guy on my Netflix screen for like 8 solid years now.
Yeah. So back in the present, and, just another example of Kate not doing the one thing we know she does really well. She gets caught again. Shocker.
And Jack calls her out on this. And why did you... I specifically asked you not to do this. And her excuse is, I didn't think you meant it. And it's like, I don't know how he could have made that more explicitly clear, as he was begging her over a walkie-talkie to not come back for him.
Run means run, Kate.
Well,
don't come back means don't come back.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kate gets caught because there was a dude in Jack's apartment or his house, and it's not established like whether he had a roommate or whether that guy was like camping out waiting for Kate or somebody
I
to
thought
show
that
up.
was his front door.
No.
Like, did he not just come busting in the front door?
Some people did.
Oh.
Yes. Somebody came out of another room in Jack. Like, I think somebody was in there taking a shit when all of a sudden Kate showed up and jumped out and tackled her.
Sadly, Saeed, after a couple of episodes of being like, the Mr. on top of it guy, does get taken down silently and apparently without much of a struggle. So he's entitled to an off episode now and then.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason that they get caught in the first place is because Kate takes a moment to watch Jack play the piano, and being the master criminal she is, fails to notice the big fucking camera in the corner of the room up on the ceiling. Kate has robbed banks before. That's like one of her first flashbacks was her participating in a bank robbery, and she doesn't notice the security camera.
Yeah.
I remember there was a superhero I read about one time whose ability was they could like learn any skill and master it, but they'd only hold on to it for a short window of time, and the things they'd already learned would sort of bleed away to get replaced by the new stuff. And so that was sort of their thing. Like, they had to be very careful about what they learned for any given strategy. That's kind of what Kate is. Like, she's like a master gunfighter until that gets bled away, and she suddenly needs to be really good at, like, climbing out of cages. She's an expert at, like, infiltrating highly secured areas until she's not, because now she needs to be an expert tracker. Like, she can't be good at too many things at one time. Her brain just does not fit them.
That actually makes sense.
Locke, meanwhile, goes off and infiltrates Ben's house with a little bit more success and sneaks up on Ben in bed, gets a gun on him, and when Alex comes to check on him, Locke takes her hostage. So this is the first time that Ben will have to negotiate with someone who's holding a gun on his daughter. It is not the last. He uses the same technique, actually, when Locke tells Alex to go get his pack that has the C4 in it. Or sorry, Saeed's pack has the C4 in it, and threatens Ben unless Alex comes back. Ben tries to say, look, she doesn't care about me. She doesn't, care about me right now. And Alex cuts him off and goes to do it. But of course, the next time Alex is held hostage, Ben will also try to pull she's not my daughter and I don't care about her, and it's not going to work then either.
Oh, yeah.
we get a truly great line delivery from Michael Emerson. Like you mentioned already, he and Terry O'Quinn are just in such top form in this episode as they're sparring and playing off each other, because the whole middle of this episode is kind of just like a two-man show between them and Ben's house, just bouncing back and forth and trying to get inside each other's head. At one point, Locke hides in the closet with Alex as a hostage when Richard Alpert, yay, comes back and takes some instructions from Ben, and Ben mentions that he should go get the man from Tallahassee. When Locke comes out, he asks if that's some kind of code, and Ben's response is, "No, John, we don't have a code for there's a man in the closet with a gun to my daughter's head." He pauses. Although we obviously should. Just beautiful line read.
Yeah, Cara, I believe. Oh, no, that's still you, Robert.
I think it was just kind of what I was mentioning earlier, but can y'all think of two actors, and this show has a really good cast and a lot of really fun combinations. Are there any two actors that y'all would pick to maybe top Terry O'Quinn and Michael Emerson for just being able to play off each other and bring out the best? Because they are really good at it.
Obviously, Maggie Grayson and Somerhalder.
Oh, God.
Later, Jack goes to visit Kate in captivity, and the first thing he does is grab a chair, pull it up, turn it around, and sit in it backwards, like a teacher about to tell a classroom full of teenagers why it's not cool to do drugs. Why did that become the code for, like, I'm going to have a casual conversation? I'm going to turn my chair around and sit in it backwards.
I feel like Family Guy had an episode where they riffed on that, and I think it had been a thing for a while, but I think that's when it officially swept over into the thing that you just make fun of.
Mm-hmm. And it's also during this scene that I came to realize this relationship between Jack and Kate could be like a master's thesis on codependency. These two characters are so fucking codependent. It's really sad because in the space of, to them, what is like a few days, Jack has gotten like, he's developing this relationship with Juliet. Kate has full-blown had sex with Sawyer. And now we put the two of them together, and they're flirting like high schoolers again. And
sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
It's really annoying, because Kate does that whole, well, I don't want you, but I don't want anyone else to have you either. So I'm going to be mad that you're like flirting with Juliet and trying to like be her girlfriend, boyfriend thing.
Yeah, and Jack's motivation is the whole reason he sent them away and agreed to go back to the mainland is after he saw Kate and Sawyer having sex. Mm-hmm. So obviously putting a pin in the Jack and Kate relationship forever, right?
I hope it's putting a knife in it forever.
That's totally not going to become a thing again.
I'm sure there is a way to write a love triangle or a love rhombus or whatever in a way that doesn't make all the people involved look like children, but this show doesn't get there.
No.
Back to where characters are actually acting like adults, though. Ben and Locke continue to trade back and forth, and it's really interesting because the thing that Locke basically throws in Ben's face is that Ben knows Locke was in a wheelchair before he got to the island, and Ben developed a near-fatal tumor on the island, and even after he's been treated, he's still in a wheelchair, and it's implied that his recovery isn't going as well. And so Locke asserts that to say that the island has clearly chosen to favor him and not Ben. And this insecurity that comes up with Ben, like his need to connect himself to the island. Like he keeps saying, I was born on this island. He told Jack previously, I've lived on this island my whole life. And we eventually find out that's not true. But his need to be connected to it in a way that he has to keep propping up with deceit, and his jealousy of Locke having that just seem to come naturally, it really sets up where he's going to go for the rest of the show, which is fun because for the first part of the season, it sort of felt like they just had Ben playing mind games with an object. He needed Jack to do surgery, but not really a character goal beyond that. And now they've got it. And one thing I really liked about this set of episodes is we do see people setting in for the things that are going to carry them through to the whole end of the series. And this conversation with Ben and Locke basically plays into where both of their stories end, which is very fun to see.
Yep. I forget. I think it's Locke referring to Ben or Ben referring to Locke. They bring up a Pharisee. Somebody gets called a Pharisee.
Yeah. So Locke is one of the things he's criticizing Ben and the others for is that they're living in nice houses with electricity and running water, and they have chicken in their refrigerators and all that. And he basically argues that that's not the way you're supposed to live on the island. And he says they're hypocrites and Pharisees. The Pharisees were sort of a strict set of sect in Judaism in like around the I don't know what you call the time where we switched from BC to AD, but that period. They show up a lot in the New Testament as sort of the ones that Jesus is attacking for being very obsessed with the letter of the law, with like precise rule following and not the spirit of the law, like the actual moral correctness that, was what God really wanted. So yeah, it's sort of a little bit hypocritical of Locke, actually, given that he was hanging out in a hatch for most of season 2 and thought that was what the island wanted. So it's weird that he just assumes that they must be off of the island's will because they're living in these nice houses they have. But yeah, I mean, it plays into their sort of messianic role that Locke claims for himself.
Well, it's also part of my favorite thing about the episode, which is that it's just 42 minutes of John Locke being a dick to everybody. I wish I had written down like some of the specific lines when he's talking to Ben, but really it's everybody up to and including blowing up the submarine that was Jack and Juliet's only way off of the island and not being repentant about it at all.
Well, he sort of said sorry.
Yeah, sort of.
Sorry,
I'm sorry you're right here when I'm doing this. That makes it awkward.
I'm sorry you had to see me like this, basically. But this is after he is told by Ben that the explosion of the hatch and the big bright light in the sky fried all their communication equipment, so no one will ever find the island. That's about to be disproved in 3 episodes? 4?
Thereabouts.
I can't remember when what's-her-name shows up. Who is it?
I think it's like the episode before the 2-part finale, so or maybe one before, but yeah, I think we got 5 or 6 episodes ahead.
Yeah. No, not Nadia. Nadia's
Naomi, I think.
Naomi, yes. Yeah. We're not too far away from Naomi and the parachute and one of the greatest season finales ever. Anyway, go ahead, Robert.
So Rousseau is with them when they arrive at the camp, but she kind of melts back into the bushes when they start sneaking in. And the only other time we see her is when Alex is going to collect the bag from Saeed. And Saeed also recognizes her as Rousseau's daughter and reveals to Alex, who apparently thought her mother was dead, that in fact her mother is still alive and Saeed's met her. But we also get to see Mira Furlan just watching as Alex walks. And without even saying a line, just the heartbreak and the fear that is on her face is just really effective. Every time you see Rousseau, you just want more of Rousseau because she just does so much with every scene they give her.
Yeah. Let's see. Where am I at? Oh, yeah. There's a moment when Locke gets back to the sub, or when he finds the submarine and opens the hatch, and it's the shot of him opening it is filmed exactly like when they blew open the top of it at the end of season 1, where him and Jack were looking down. But it's such a nice reference that all 3 of us did some variation on like nice.
Yeah,
there was an audible reaction from all 3 of us. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, when Jack is making his deal with Ben, he says, I'll let you go home if you do this, blah blah blah. And Jack says, "Do I have your word?"
I think that's about letting Kate go after.
Oh, was
after
it about
he's
letting?
gone. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was about letting those 2 go. Anyway, but like, what, Jack? Why? It's not like he hasn't been lying to everyone all the time.
Well, in that moment, Ben already knows that he has pretty much talked Locke into blowing up the sub, so he can just say and agree to whatever he wants to at that point. That's the beauty of Ben Linus, is he is, at least at this point in the show, 5 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, he's on his A game for this episode in terms of the manipulation.
Absolutely.
It is funny that he establishes that his dilemma, which he explains to Locke later, is that he doesn't want to let Jack go because he doesn't want his people to start leaving the island and to think about going home, but he also can't just keep Jack there forever after it's known that he promised to let him go, because then his people will know he's a liar. Which is really funny to think that the others have been following his leadership for years, presumably at this point, and apparently just think that he's a pretty honest, upstanding man of his word. That, like, after we met him and after like 3 episodes, we were just like, oh my gosh, this man's, like, his concept of truth is just a bowl of spaghetti. Yeah, that apparently that would be a shock to Mr. Friendly and the others who are following his lead.
Well, Jack's journey in this episode takes him from his house to the shack where they're keeping Kate, to Ben's house, to the dock. Somehow, when Jack and Juliet are taken to the dock where the submarine is at, he is sweating again, like full-blown forehead sweat, ring around the neck of his shirt, and I couldn't help but wonder, it's the middle of the night. How did Jack get so fucking sweaty just walking from Ben's house to the dock?
Well, maybe as a going away meal, they had a big barbecue and he had the meat sweats.
Yes, that's the best non-canon explanation I've heard.
Maybe Ben has really clammy hands and Jack is still sweating from that handshake.
Yeah.
All valid arguments.
Yeah. Now, I have a question because, I don't know a lot about demolitions or anything like that. If you put C4 in a submarine, would it actually explode to that intensity, or is it just like a grenade in every movie where it explodes like fire?
Basically, the inside of the submarine, yes, would have been toast. The outside of it would have pretty much been intact. It probably would have bowed out, or there'd be some broken spots in the exterior. But no, submarines are not supposed to explode like that, especially from the inside.
Yeah, they're built to withstand pressure changes, and ultimately an explosion is just a very rapid, very intense pressure change in a small area.
Mm-hmm. So no, they'd have heard the explosion, but it would have been muffled, and they would not have seen any flames whatsoever.
If Locke really knew what he was doing, maybe he could have found a seam somewhere and planted the C4 right on this one spot that would split the hole open, and then it would just sink. But yeah, full on ship torn apart by fireball is not something that a few bricks of C4 could do.
And I don't even think it was a few bricks. I think he only brought the one brick, didn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So realistically, it should have been probably the 20 feet on either side of wherever he planted it that was destroyed.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the exterior of the sub would have been intact.
No, not the last time John Locke will have good luck with a bomb that goes on a submarine.
Oh,
bad luck for everyone else.
Boy, I don't remember a lot of this.
So we've kind of skipped over the flashback because most of it is Locke finding out that his dad's conning this woman, and then when he tries to get his dad to walk away, her son mysteriously winds up dead. Locke, because he's ultimately an idiot where his dad is concerned, instead of immediately going to the police and pointing them at Anthony Cooper, he goes to confront Cooper directly in his apartment, and Cooper pours himself a glass of McCutcheon's Scotch, the same brand that Charles Widmore drank, the same brand that Charlie, Desmond, and Hurley got sloshed to on the beach. And when Cooper claims that he has, in fact, that the woman he was conning has called off the wedding, and Locke says he's going to use the phone to check that out, he walks over, and in one of the most effective shock moments of the show, he turns to ask his dad a question, and his dad charges at him and shoves him bodily out the window. It's so out of nowhere, and yet it makes perfect sense. But I mean, he's a con man. He keeps his face neutral until suddenly he reveals that yes, he is just this big of a monster.
I mean, it's still, even though I remembered that it happened, I didn't remember it was this episode, and it still just made me gasp, and it's just shocking. And I remember it was a fall, but I don't think I remembered it was 8 stories. That's 80 feet. Well, I don't know how he didn't die.
Well, I think the show really missed the mark on not giving us an Anthony Cooper flashback episode in which he had to play a linebacker for one of his cons, because he rushes Locke and pushes him out that window like a pro football player. It's shocking, but also a little bit hilarious to see this 75-year-old man bull rushing another old man.
He's got the strength of 2 kidneys beside him.
Yeah, poor Locke only had the strength of 1. This has been a season of hit or miss flashbacks. I've mentioned several times throughout this podcast that there are some characters we're good on. We don't need more flashbacks. We don't need to know more about them. In fact, some of them, the more we find out, the less we care. This is one of the rare flashbacks this season that actually feels important and builds on character. and also sets up something that's going to happen later, which is a really nice change of pace for what has otherwise been kind of a mid-flashback season.
How did Locke get in the wheelchair is sort of the only really big question that they had left out there from kind of the season 1 flashback mysteries. So it was one of the few that really could feel like it told us something we really didn't know and gave us a big piece of the puzzle, where everything else has at best been just kind of refining and showing us characters in different contexts and angles. So yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. I found myself, really feeling kind of sorry for Locke. I mean, he lost a kidney and his legs, and the use of his legs, not his actual legs. And even on this magical island, he still gets used by Ben. Like, it's just, it's sad.
That is Locke's lot in life.
I know.
And it's going to get worse before it gets worse.
And it's just really sad because he's already worked out that Ben was manipulating him, that he just ended up doing exactly what Ben needed him to do. And then Ben just decides to top it off by revealing, oh, by the way, that dad, the one that you're so determined to leave this island because this is the one place your dad can never find you. He's in this room.
Oh yeah, because the room's explained. What do they call it? Like, it's like the magic wish room or something.
Well, yeah. So Ben uses this thing, and it's not clear if he's being metaphorical or not, though he claims he is. But that there's box that anything you wish can be inside of, and Locke's kind of, like you said, dickish rejoinder to that is, hope that box is big enough to imagine a new submarine. But yeah, we reveal that Anthony Cooper is on the island, bound, gagged, and looking terrified to see Locke.
Yep, so he was the man from Tallahassee, which means that after paralyzing John, he retired to Florida, which makes perfect fucking sense because Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old men, old con artists living in Florida.
Another crossover I wish we'd gotten, an episode where Michael Weston from Burn Notice has to stop him from ripping off a bunch of old ladies.
Hey, you guys want to do Burn Notice next? I'm down for that one too.
Never seen
Let's
that either.
do a bunch of like mid-2000s shows.
The thing about Burn Notice is there's almost nothing to say about it. It's just fun.
Yeah, that's true. There is no like deep well to dive into with Burn Notice. We'd almost have to do like a season at a time. Just, hey, wasn't that cool?
Two things I just noted is that it's interesting that they brought Richard back because Nestor Carbonell had been so well received, and I think they just liked working with him. But at this point, he just seems like kind of another henchman under Ben. It's not really clear that he has any special role in the camp, beyond just the fact that he has a very interesting presence that feels a little different than some of the others. Another thing that I'd like to see in the credits, I mentioned that we've got names like Drew Goddard and, there's one other person. Oh my gosh, Pushing Daisies. Brian Fuller had worked on the show. Brian K. Vaughan was one of the story editors for this season, which if you've ever read Saga, Ex Machina, Why the Last Man, really, really famous comics writer, done some TV work, but just a very good fit for Lost. And I think he's one of the reasons that this is maybe the season where they kind of find the good balance of character and sci-fi that's going to carry him through the rest of the show.
Fantastic. Well, it's time to talk about one of the most important episodes of this entire series, something that the three of us could not wait to get to for various reasons. It's episode 314, Expose, the first and last Nikki and Paolo flashback episode. And Cara, you would like to start by saying...
I would like to apologize ahead of time for the sheer amount of hate and disgust that I will be spewing during this discussion.
My wife Katie actually got to watch this batch of episodes with us, which she hasn't gotten to see a lot of season 3, but at one point she looked over, like leaned past me and looked at Cara and said, Cara, do you just hate women?
No, she said, why do you hate women?
Oh yeah, why do you hate women?
And it's not that I hate women. There's some I like. I like Rousseau. I like Juliet. I just hate the dumb ones.
And there are a lot of those on this show.
It's actually fun because we've not had a lot of things where we disagree on episodes in any particular way. And it's actually fun to have one where I love this episode and it makes me feel like Nikki and Paolo, their whole thing kind of pays off here. So I'm looking forward to us digging that out.
And I'm middle of the road on it. It's not as bad as I Do or Stranger in a Strange Land. It's not that bad. It's wholly unnecessary, but that's Nikki and Paolo in a nutshell. They were wholly unnecessary characters who get a completely unnecessary episode right here nestled in the middle of the season. But anyway, let's dive into the discussion because it is day 81 and it starts right off the bat with a Nikki jungle run as Sawyer is still trying to redeem that game of ping pong that he lost, or table tennis with Hurley. And then Nikki, sweaty and jiggly, comes running out of the forest. And go ahead, Cara.
Well, the start of the flashback is her as a stripper. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then I realized, oh, no, this is a movie. Great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's on a TV show, like a long-running TV show. I think they mentioned that it's in Expose is in its 4th season.
Yeah.
And she's a guest star on that. Her like fake-out stripper routine, I thought, was actually pretty risque for 2007 ABC.
Yeah, you're kind of used to network TV strippers. Well, I mean, we're all used to it, right? Just being
I'm drowning in them.
being in pretty conservative. I mean, again, it's not the kind of thing you'd wear to like Sunday school or whatever, but you know, it's like a sexy nurse outfit or something, and that's just kind of where it stops. And it's like, no, she's actually in fairly revealing underwear, and yeah, they showed a fair amount for 2007, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've joked on here before about what this show would look like now on a cable, or not a cable network, but like a streaming platform like HBO Max or Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And that would have been a full-blown stripper routine. Mm-hmm. And we also 100% would have seen
boobs.
Well, we would have seen boobs, but we also would have seen her and Paolo fucking at some point in this episode.
Yeah,
Rodrigo Santoro absolutely would have gone full frontal.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
Well, I mean, this was around the same time that he was in 300. Sorry, Cara, go ahead.
No, I that's why he looks familiar. Mm-hmm. Okay. No, I would not have complained if that would have happened.
Well, as the episode guest stars Billy D. Williams, but apparently in universe on the TV show Expose, he is a main character who was revealed to be the big bad of Expose.
He's like the Charlie of Charlie's Angels, like the one who like directs our protagonists around. And then, yeah, the big 4th season shocker is he's actually the bad guy.
What?
If only they had shown us more of Expose.
Would have rather watched that than this stupid shit.
Well, I can't believe you'd say that, Cara, because it gives us a new catchphrase.
Oh, I need to add this to our best lines list down
Oh,
there.
I did.
Thank you.
Oh, God.
What's the line?
Razzle dazzle.
Which she shouts as she like karate kicks a guy who's pulled a gun on her.
Oh, my God.
It's so it's delightfully terrible.
Yeah, they're having a lot of fun playing up like, you think we're soapy? You think we're cheesy? Well, it could look like this. Mm-hmm. And the meta stuff starts flying very quickly because it turns out she's romantically involved with the show's producer. And when he speculates the idea about, well, we could come up with a reason you didn't just die, even though that seemed unavoidable. And she just kind of shrugs it off with, oh, we all know what happens to guest stars. Which, oh yeah, they're having fun with it.
Yeah.
And the dramatic cold open where she stumbles out of the jungle, whispers something that sounds like power lines, and then seemingly dies right in front of Hurley and Sawyer. Like dramatic music, pan in on Sawyer, who dramatically says, "Who the hell's Nikki?" Which just starts a wonderful running gag of him having no idea who these two people are that everybody else seems familiar with.
Well,
he's my favorite character this episode. Cause
for sure.
With you, Sawyer. Who the fuck is she?
Well, this episode is a great excuse to bring back a bunch of previous characters, including
Maggie Gray
at her Shannonist, where we see Aaron Boone bickering so much in the airport that Nikki and Paolo just assume that they're a couple looking for a table.
She is. Sorry, we're not going to go there.
Well, we probably will. Let's be perfectly honest about it. It turns out that Nikki and Paolo were con artists themselves, and Nikki had only been dating this producer to get close to him, and Paolo got a job with him so that they could kill and rob him. And the thing that they take out of his safe is a Russian nesting doll, which is the perfect metaphor for how many layers this one episode has. Mm-hmm. He said sarcastically.
I'm just glad you didn't say how many layers they have.
of clothing between them, not many.
No.
At the airport, like Robert said, we see Shannon and Boone arguing, and they storm off. And Nikki says to Paolo, "Promise me we'll never end up like them." And me and my wife, being simpatico, she said, or I said, "Dead," and she said, "Brother and sister."
And then we get to see the crash from Nikki's perspective.
Oh, God, I hated this so much. Like, literally, they're going to CGI her into some of the scenes and then strategically shoot things so that it looks like she was always there. I hate it.
I remember her. I noticed her when we first watched the pilot episode.
my
I
God.
said, "There's Nikki. She's going to be important in 2.5 seasons."
You remember when, like, right before that scene where the guy gets sucked into the turbine, Locke turns to the blonde woman behind him and it's distracted for a moment?
Nope.
This whole episode is just a real... Because at this point, the writers, I'm pretty sure, had settled on the idea that they were going to blow up the status quo by the end of the season. So this feels like kind of the last run-through of what the show was up to this point. So we get all these fun continuity nods, like Nikki's immediately looking for the bag that has the diamonds in it, but gets interrupted as Boone goes by looking for a pin, because back in the first episode, Jack sent him to get a pin for a tracheotomy, mainly just to get rid of him. There's a back in the present day, Sawyer and Hurley find Paolo's body as well, and when Sawyer starts poking around at things, Hurley yells at him for disturbing evidence, and Sawyer gets the fun line of, "There a forensics hatch I don't know about?" Just like, what do you mean evidence? What are we going to do with any of this?
If there was, that's the hatch I'd want.
That would be right up your alley. Yeah. Well, at one point in the flashback, because we see what Nikki and Paolo were doing for the last 81 days, and at one point while discussing the smoke monster, which at that point no one has seen yet, somebody suggests maybe it's a dinosaur. That's just one of many examples of the fun the writers get to have with this episode, acknowledging that old theory that somehow they were on a Jurassic Park-esque island.
I just appreciate that. I think Lost is a show that runs on a lot of sincerity and emotion. I don't think it could survive a lot of winking at itself and kind of fourth walliness. So when they pick an episode like this and really turn it up, it's fun because, like you said, it's irrelevant to the big plot, but that's also nice because it's not distracting from any of the... Like, you wouldn't want this moment happening in the last episode. Like, all these jokes and winks would not have worked there. But this is a fun place to just pool all of them. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, like I said, there's a lot of fun. We get a lot of pans across Nikki and Paolo's faces, just again seeming dead with their eyes open. But given what we find out at the end of the episode, it's actually increasingly terrifying. I don't think I wrote it down, but at one point they get covered with a tarp and Vincent tugs the tarp off of them, which you think is just, oh, Vincent, he's playing. And as we know, Vincent loves to play with parts of dead people. But in fact, Vincent may be trying to signal something that he, as a dog, is aware of that the rest of the survivors are not.
There's a whole bunch of spiders in this episode, which as somebody who's extremely arachnophobic, you'd think I'd have remembered that, but I think I repressed it instead. But yes, a rare type of spider ends up being important to the plot of this episode, and we get to see one because apparently Dr. Arst was collecting all the weird bugs that he found on the island and says that he discovered some new ones, which is something that's never brought up again. The island has completely unique bugs.
Well, of course they do. Because, like if you think about it, as he said, he's going to be the next Darwin because he's discovered an island where things that don't exist.
Am I crazy? There was a note in here at one point I thought from you, Cara, that talked about the blatant like sex appeal of this episode, like all the positions they put Nikki in. That was blatantly like. Did you not put that in there?
I don't remember if I know I said it.
Yeah.
Because we were, of course, when you got Sawyer taking his shirt off, and I'm like, look, we got all the jiggly boobs.
Yeah.
We girls, we need some rock hard abs.
Yeah, exactly. And you get Sallow. Combined. You get Paolo and Sawyer in this episode, but it reminds me there's an ongoing joke on the Men Writing Women subreddit about how terrible most male authors are at describing women in their books. She bounced boobily is a common like joke sentence, but this episode I think you could accurately say Nikki spends a lot of her time bouncing boobily
Agreed.
across the island. Again, just the amount of fun the writers were having here, we see in the different flashbacks. Paolo at one point says that instead of talking to Dr. Arce, they should have gone to Ethan.
Which apparently, if you track the days that we're given, because they tell us like this was 75 days ago, this was 61 days ago, he says that line 10 days after Ethan abducted Claire and Charlie, which is just how oblivious they are to what else is going on in the camp.
That's fantastic. Apparently, they were also the first people to find the Beechcraft up in the trees, and Paolo says, if I go up there, I'll fall.
Ugh.
Foreshadowing Boone. Well, foreshadowing, not really,
No.
but just having fun with that.
Would you call it backshadowing? I don't know.
Backshots?
Retro shadowing?
Yeah, retro shadowing. I like that.
Yeah, these two morons stumble upon the Pearl Station, find the hatch cleared off, just pull it open, no dynamite needed, and then just close it and move on. And I think we are still, let's see, I think at this point Locke has found the hatch, but we are still like a couple of weeks away from it getting opened. And like, while it is really hilarious to think that while he is just having this existential crisis about getting it open, Nikki and Paolo just found a different one and moved on.
And apparently never told anyone else that we found an underground station full of computer monitors and security monitors. That didn't bear mentioning.
Well, it gets better because there's a scene later on where, because Paolo does find the diamonds, but he's scared that once he gives them to Nikki, she won't need him anymore, so he lies that he hasn't seen them. And eventually he goes back to that Pearl Station to hide them. While he's in there, Ben and Juliet come in and just have a casual conversation revealing their whole plan for the back quarter of season 2, mentioning by name, like Jack, Michael, all of the people they're going to be manipulating. And apparently Paolo just never told anybody that. He could just come back and like, hey, they're going to use Michael to do something here, by the way, just FYI.
Or even that, like, hey, I have confirmation that there are more others, and I've seen 2 of them. I also am just now realizing when he sees Ben and Juliet in the hatch, Juliet is wearing her, like, we live in the jungle attire, which is the, I think, only time we ever see her, because the rest of the time she's in her, like, regular Otherton normal people clothes. Because it's pretty obvious that the others have, like, their we need to look like we're savages who live in the jungle type of attire and fake beards and such. And that's what we see Ben wearing pretty much all of season 2. And that outfit makes a reappearance here, but Juliet also had one. I guess just on the off chance that they got caught. I don't know. That's just funny to me.
It's like in a video game. She has like an alternate skin she gets to use. The fun thing is that back in the present, the rest of the survivors are trying to figure out what happened to Nikki and Paolo, and they keep throwing out more and more theories, like maybe it was the monster that did it because they find Paolo in the jungle. Or they find a walkie-talkie that Sawyer recognizes as the same kind that the others use, and he's like, they were working for the others. And it's hilarious because it really is just these 2 dumb idiots fighting over some diamonds they stole. Like, it has nothing to do with anything else on the island.
Yeah.
Which I know that, you know, they say sometimes a simple truth can be disappointing, but it's also can be very dramatically fun just to watch people look for really dramatic and complex explanations when there's just because sometimes reality is simple and stupid.
Yeah, it really is. But we do get a running gag of Nikki, and if the first season established no one could say Dr. Arce correctly, there were all kinds of variations on it, and including apparently Nikki had been going around calling him Dr. Art, which is just extra funny to me for some reason.
She has too much cleavage to pronounce names correctly.
And we get a butt holster watch check in with Sawyer, who's been running around with an empty gun this whole episode.
That he took from Paolo.
Yes.
We let's see. They're talking about whether or not the others could be involved in this, and when they try to say the others don't usually come to this side of the camp, Sun reminds everybody that she was attacked and abducted by who she thought were the others. But as the 4 or 5 reverse shots of Sawyer and Charlie looking incredibly shifty remind us, no, that was actually a scheme that they worked up. Just thankfully nobody else notices them just awkwardly like looking off to the side and biting their nails and just awkwardly fidgeting.
It would have been fun to have Sun look up at that point and be like, "Are you guys all right? Everything okay?" This is our like one and only, I think, murder mystery episode of the show, and they really lean into it because there are so many red herrings. At one point, they try to paint Sawyer as a suspect because Desmond gets to reveal, "Oh, I saw Sawyer talking to Nikki this morning."
But he didn't know who she was.
And Sawyer had a gun on him, and yeah, it's just another aspect that they really got to play around with for the one and only time. Maybe that should have been the whole show. Maybe we shouldn't have had smoke monsters. It should have been an island murder mystery.
One of the things we do get that sort of moves things along a little bit, the redemption story of Charlie Pace continues because he does confess to Sun what he did to her, and she's shocked, but he does seem fully repentant, and she then goes to talk to Sawyer about it, and understandably, his first question is, are you going to tell Jen? And also somewhat to Sawyer's credit, he actually seems sad to think that Jen finding out would make Jen think less of him because they are still kind of friends. And also somewhat about the fact that Jen would probably beat him to death against a tree. As Sun confirms, because she says she didn't tell Jen because then we would be digging another grave. But ultimately, yeah, the reason for his shiftiness is that he found the diamonds that were buried in the jungle and was going to pocket them. But as Sun reminds him, diamonds are worthless on this island anyway, so Sawyer ends up dumping them in the pit where Nikki and Paolo are being buried, which is Sawyer's heart grows 3 sizes that day.
Unfortunately, those diamonds aren't going to stay there, and their graves are going to get desecrated in about a season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I don't remember that.
That'll be the final fuck you to Nikki and Paolo for you, Cara.
Yay!
There's a famous literary and writing term called Chekhov's gun. Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said that one of his writing philosophies was, if you introduce a gun on the mantle in Act 1, it needs to go off in Act 3. And here we get Chekhov's gum, because Paolo is giving up smoking and has nicotine gum, and it was in the bag with the diamonds, and it falls out of his pocket, and Nikki finds it, which is how she realizes that he knows about the diamonds, setting up what ultimately happened, which is she threw a fucking spider at him, you guys.
Yeah.
That is my worst nightmare. Weaponized spiders. Mm-hmm. She takes out the jar that Dr. Arst had kept this thing in, and she just fucking, not even the jar, she just chucks a spider at him.
Eat.
Worst fucking nightmare.
And she forgets, unfortunately, another thing Arst had mentioned, which is that these spiders give off pheromones that attract others of their kind. So as soon as she does that, there are 5 or 6 more spiders scurrying towards her, and she gets bitten. And because she's decides she needs to take the time to bury the diamonds before running to the beach, she gets there too late to say the word paralyzed in a way that Sawyer and Hurley could understand. So she and Paolo have been alive this whole time, staring up, probably fully conscious, unable to move, blink, or speak, and they get buried alive at the end of the episode.
This is a dark show at times. I mean, with in 2 seasons, we're going to be dealing with character suicide, and it's a show where characters have various addictions. But is this the darkest thing that happens on the show? 2 people get buried alive by, quote, for some measure, unquote, of friends.
I think it's appropriate for these 2 idiots.
I think the fact that we do get to see Nikki's eyes open, like she is just starting to regain muscle control when the last shovel of dirt covers her face. So, and then we just get a slow pan out over the full covering of it. Yeah, that's probably one of the darkest episode endings, just because it is so, really it is kind of a goofy episode for most of it, and then it ends on this really pitch black note.
I know you, Hensley, repressed the spider aspect of it. I repressed this entire episode. I would never have said that, yes, something like this happened. But, it was worth it, I guess, just to watch those 2 dumb fucks get buried alive.
I want to know what the initial reaction was when this show aired. Was it, holy shit, they just buried 2 people alive? Or was it, thank God they just buried those 2 alive?
Probably the latter.
The latter, yeah.
I think it's pretty well received now. At the time, it was divisive. People just wanted Nikki and Paolo gone. They didn't want them to get a full episode, but some people thought it was a fun way to send them off. I was in that camp. It remains probably one of the more like controversial episodes, and that some people love, some people hate. Unlike the episodes like Stranger in a Strange Land, where just everybody agrees it's hot garbage.
Well, speaking of hot garbage, actually, no, this episode isn't terrible, but it's episode 315, Left Behind. It's another Kate episode. I know that Jack wins most character flashback episodes. But it really is, it feels like Kate has had the most, and each one is worse than the last. This was I just finished saying about episode 313, Man From Tallahassee, that Locke's flashback really added a lot to his character and fleshed him out a bit. This does nothing for Kate's character whatsoever.
It actually does more for Cassidy's character, it feels like, than for Kate.
Yeah.
Well, this episode takes place over days 81 and 82, and as I said already, it is a Kate flashback episode.
We open with Juliet bringing sandwiches to prisoners, which is one of her main roles among the others, and again, she gets attacked for just trying to deliver a delicious sandwich. Harsh stuff. It's hard to be the island's DoorDasher.
However, when Kate tries to attack her, Juliet just fucking flips her, like fucking bodies Kate right into the ground, and that automatically makes her the best character on this show. All the applications are now closed. Juliet wins.
Sorry, Veronica. Betty's got you this time.
Well, in the flashback, I remember these days. Gas was $1.32 a gallon. Oh my God.
Yeah, this would be, what, 95, 96 is when that one's taking place? Like, just
Not quite that far back, I don't think.
Because it's right after Kate's murdered her father, so this is fairly early during her time on the run.
Because I know in, oh God, this is, in 95, when I was driving, gas was 99 cents a gallon, so.
Lies.
Kate is supposed to be 26 years old. So at the start of the show in 2004. So that would make her mean she was born in 78. Is that right?
Okay, so she's...
I'm terrible at math.
2 years younger than me.
Yeah, so that would... I think... I want to say this flashback is like circa 2000. Something like that.
I know at some point we established what year she went on the run and how long she's been, but...
Yeah.
We really just don't care.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah. It is really sweet that, she met Sawyer's baby mama before she knew Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
And somehow Sawyer, I don't think, ever finds out about this. I don't think it's ever established. Like, they have a lot of fun with the, oh my God, so-and-so met so-and-so. But no, I don't think they ever established that Sawyer realizing, oh my God, you knew Cassidy?
So there's a moment that's going to come at the end of season 4 where I want to watch Kate's face very carefully because Sawyer gives her a piece of information and I want to see how she reacts to it to see if she's making the connection then. But no, I don't think Sawyer ever finds out.
Well, I started to put in the notes for our guest star watch that Kim Dickens was back. But, I mean, at this point for this season, she's basically a recurring character.
Huzzah.
This is her 3rd or 4th appearance. And I'm here for it. I would take Cassidy over Kate any day at this point.
I just look at her. She's got the dark brown hair and the southern accent, and I'm just seeing like Rogue from the X-Men every time she talks.
I love that. This episode really hit home for me that we are 15 episodes into this season, and the two sides of the island plot really feel so disconnected. You've got the beach survivors with the camp that we've known since the beginning of season 1, and then you've got Otherville and like the other island, and like the last episode, there have been several episodes this season where we just don't see one other side of the island, like what was going on over there. And yeah, I'm glad that they're this is the episode where they're starting to bridge those two sides of the island, but this is the episode where they really feel the most disconnected.
It's been hard because unlike, in season 1 where they're all united by having survived a plane crash, in season 2 they're united by the escalating threat of the others and the arrival of the tail section. In this one, there really isn't anything bringing the community of survivors together. Like, a few people will go to try to find Jack and on the other side of the island. But there's not a big thing that everybody's working on. And we've alluded to it already, but a thing will arrive on a parachute that is going to be that catalyst that we need. But yeah, right now it's felt so split up all season.
Well, do you think that's possibly partially because, you have most of the main characters that are away from camp. And so like maybe it's to sort of mirror that. I don't know. I did get annoyed. Well, shocker. I got annoyed at Kate because, she meets Cassidy and, tries to help a girl out by, saying, oh, of course those necklaces are real. And then they just get along so famously. She just spills all the beans. Oh, I killed my stepfather. I blew him up and blah, blah, blah. Like, are you serious? Like, nobody does that.
She's new to being a fugitive. She hasn't learned the don't tell people about your crimes part of the job yet.
I kind of feel like everybody knows you don't talk about blowing up your stepfather.
Well, and it's just another example of the inconsistency of how good of a criminal is Kate, because she immediately picks up on the con that Cassidy was running. That is about when we see her in the episode about to get her in trouble. Kate knows this con well enough to step in and do the kind of role that Sawyer or some other partner would normally fill in for a person. So sometimes she's a good criminal, sometimes she's not.
It's funny. I was actually the very next note I had was that it's if you are invested in the Kate Sawyer relationship, it's kind of cute that she learned some of her skills about lying and self-sufficiency on the run from a woman who learned them from Sawyer. So there's just this indirect connection. But yeah, David, as you just pointed out, she's showing some of those like in the very moment she meets Cassidy. So no, it's not like she's just, a panicked babe in the woods and Cassidy sets her on the path to survive. That's some spotty writing. It's also just kind of weird that we consistently see there's this massive interstate manhunt for Kate with just apparently at least a dozen law enforcement officers from like local police, the U.S. Marshals Service, all over. And it's like, it's one backwoods hick got blown up. Like, if Kate hadn't blown him up, he probably would have died in a meth lab explosion a week later. The idea that Kate is just this target of... It's the problem of her revelation, which it was always suggested that she'd done something really bad. Like, that was the reason they were chasing her all over the country. They chased her to Australia. Kate did something that the U.S. government absolutely needed her to go down for. And no, she didn't. She really didn't.
No, at best, it should have just been two really annoyed U.S. Marshals who are just absolutely do not want to still be doing this. Instead, it's a U.S. Marshal and the FBI for whatever the fuck reason.
Well, maybe the redneck backwater hick was a top informant that they just... maybe that hit the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, she accidentally blew up the protagonist of Ozark.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a more interesting show. So the kickoff of the episode is all of the others leaving Otherton to go off and do God knows what. But in order to do that, they have to gas Kate and Jack and Saeed so that they don't follow. And Kate is alerted to this when she looks out the window and sees all of the others putting on gas masks. And then they bust open, or they just open her door, toss a canister of something in to knock her out, and then close the door again and go on their merry way, which made me sit there and wonder, why did they put on gas masks when they were already outdoors? Why did they... None of them were in the same rooms as Jack, Kate, and Saeed. They were all in 3 different locations indoors.
It is such potent gas that comes out of that grenade that they couldn't take any chances.
A little of it gets out through the door and woof, you're gone.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a super dramatic moment when she looks out and sees them masking up. But yeah, the second you think about it, it just does not make any sense.
The others are a bunch of drama queens. That's what I'm getting out of this. The B plot on Island of this episode is Hurley is conning Sawyer into trying to be a better person by he's told him that the camp survivors are going to have a vote on whether or not they want to kick Sawyer out for all of his shenanigans. And that spurs Sawyer into trying to do some things for himself, which includes catching a fish, which he then has to try to clean, and he's hilariously bad at it, which prompted Katie to say it was like watching one of those late-night infomercials where everyone is hilariously bad at the things they're trying to do.
If only you had a Branson knife.
Oh, man, I can't open my cabinets. Plates keep falling on me. We do get a proper guest star in this episode, in that Beth Broderick is back as Aunt Zelda. I'm sorry, as Kate's mom, but she is best known from Sabrina the Teenage Witch as Aunt Zelda. Although that should have been the character connection. Aunt Zelda was Kate's mom. I already brought this up, but I can't remember what prompted me to write it down. Every Kate episode further reinforces just how bad she is at crime.
I think this is when she sends Cassidy in wearing a wig to kind of draw out to see what kind of security. And Kate is just watching this like from a car on the other side of the street.
With binoculars.
Yes, she's sitting in a car in full view of the marshals and the FBI.
And the marshal's clearly like looking around like, okay, she's obviously doing this. She has to be near.
I wanted him to look up and see her and just go, there she is, guys. God, she's so dumb. But similar to Nikki and bouncing boobily along the beach, we get an obligatory girl fight in the rain, a tale as old as time.
Yeah, we didn't really mention the main plot of this, but Kate wakes up in the jungle handcuffed to Juliet, who's also been left behind, and the two of them have to make their way back, and they get into a fight.
After it starts raining, which the show is, kind of conservative in that regard, in that, neither of them are wearing white tank tops. But then later they just kind of ruin that by blatantly having them fall into a puddle of mud and then wrestle.
I will say the fight choreography is sufficiently brutal that it doesn't feel like it's completely just meant to titillate, because at one point Juliet gets her arm dislocated. I think when Kate like twists her arm around her own neck. It's a gnarly looking move. I'll give him that. Kate eventually, I forget if it's when the monster first shows up, but she snaps at Juliet, "Welcome to the wonderful world of not knowing what the hell's going on," which is a good line generally, but also probably the best line that Kate ever got. So after all the crap the writer's given her, it's nice that she got that one good one to deliver.
Yeah. Well, and in that whole thing, Juliet like has no idea about the smoke monster. Like, really? Does she really not know, or is she playing Kate?
Oh, she's playing Kate.
Yeah.
Later we find out that that's the whole reason they have the sonic fence. Is to keep the smoke monster out.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, now I'm putting that together.
She admits they don't really know what it is, but they understand enough about it to keep it out.
I do want to know, how does it make those stomping sounds?
I wondered that too, and then I realized those stomping sounds are sound effects of trees falling, which makes me wonder why there aren't just huge empty
clearings.
swaths of clearings everywhere that the monster goes, because every time we see it, it is like knocking trees over.
Maybe Jacob comes by after it and picks those up.
Makes them, puts them back in place.
Just clean up after his brother. So we get, like you mentioned, the plot of Sawyer trying to endear himself to the other survivors more, and he brings a blanket to Claire, and Claire has this sort of, "Oh, you're talking to me, that's weird," and it's a really cute and funny scene, but makes me a little sad that it kind of goes against one of the sweetest moments in season 1, which is when they realize that Sawyer's voice will calm Aaron down, and he just sits there on the beach reading to him. So it's like, oh, I wish we'd gotten a little bit of a callback to that, because Claire makes it sound like this is the first time Sawyer's even acknowledged Aaron's existence.
Especially because he walks up and looks into the cradle at baby Aaron, and he says something like, "How you doing there, little baby?"
Yeah, he's not as wrinkly as he was a couple of days ago.
That is Sawyer's best line right there. And this episode just reminds us of the character's had his ups and downs, but this is why we love Josh Holloway as Sawyer. This whole interaction that he has with Claire is gold. So after popping Juliet's arm out of the socket, Kate then has to pop it back in, and that's definitely not how you do that. It's not even entirely clear. Like, they do it from a sitting position, and she just sort of awkwardly, I don't even know what she did. I just watched it and go, no.
It looks like it's not even the full, like, hold your arm straight and pull thing. Like, she tries to rotate it back in.
Yeah.
And they have the same on-set consultant that they do for all the chest-punching CPR scenes.
Yeah, what is that thing called? The cardiac bump or cardial bump? I looked it up one day and found out that it is a real thing and texted these guys about it.
Yeah.
Cardial thump, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't look it up to see if this has actually happened, mostly because I don't care enough to see if it has actually happened. But if it hasn't already, some YouTuber out there needs to make a supercut of all the fucking times that Kate has cried on this fucking show.
It's a lot.
It's a fucking lot. In the flashback, her and Cassidy do manage to successfully run one con that gets her into contact with her mom. And her mom, like, outright rejects her and tells her she doesn't want to see her ever again and leaves. And Kate just stands in the bathroom of this restaurant sobbing. And it's like, God damn. After a certain point, you really just have to start feeling bad for Evangeline Lilly. How many takes has she had to do collectively over her 2.5 years on this show where they're like, we just need to see more emotion. We really need to get more hysterical. Ugh.
Yeah.
And we get a double jungle run this time of Kate and Juliet running from Smokey. This is when they fall in the mud. And this could not have been fun at all for Evangeline Lilly or Elizabeth Mitchell, because you see them on camera fall into this mud pit and get out of it soaked, and it just looks gross and miserable. And they're like that for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, that must have been a rough couple of days of shooting.
Yeah, and it's also annoying that they go back to Otherton and hook up with Saeed and Jack in houses that have running water, and yet neither of them take the time to go and shower.
Like, one of these is Juliet's house. Like, she's got a change of clothes.
Yeah, and her and Kate are about the same size. She could have spotted the girl some clothes. No, they're just going to traipse off through the jungle back to their beach camp covered in mud.
It is funny because Juliet admits that she was the one who got them out in the jungle and handcuffed them together. She's had a key the whole time because once she was gassed and realized she'd been abandoned by her people, she wanted to create a bond with Kate so she'd be accepted by the rest of the survivors. And it's like, really, she could have just been like, I've got a shower. You want to use a shower? Yeah, change of clothes. How would you like to wear a different bra than the one you've been wearing for the last 3 months straight?
Can I make you a sandwich? Now, one thing I did appreciate was when Smokey was chasing them, he's actually looking a lot better this episode.
Yeah, their CGI budget has gone up.
Like, a lot. Like, when they put up the sonic barrier and he, like, smashes up against it and he just does what smoke does up against a window. I don't know. That was just really cool.
Well, they got I think they got the animators that put Nikki into the opening scene on the beach during the crash.
Could not have been the same people. No.
Oh, man.
We do eventually find out, like I said, that Hurley is conning Sawyer, that there was never a vote. He was just tricking Sawyer into doing nice things so Sawyer would realize how good that felt, which Sawyer looks appropriately shaken by the fact that he got conned by probably the worst liar on the island. Mm-hmm. In all seriousness, similar to what I've said about how that we've set Locke and Ben on kind of their path for the rest of the show, when Hurley tells Sawyer that he's the closest thing to a leader that they've got now, with Jack, Locke, Kate, Saeed all on the other side of the island, and Sawyer actually looks like he's taking that kind of seriously. Yeah, Sawyer discovering that he actually does have it in him to be a leader and somebody that people actually look up to is going to be something that plays out over the next couple seasons.
Yeah, but before we get there, it is nice to see him getting humbled, because this is the second time this season he has had his own game run on him. First it was Ben and the pacemaker thing. The episode ends on it doesn't end, but near the end we get a good times montage of all the beach characters, which this show has established. Good times montages are always harbingers of doom.
Oh, yes.
Because now with episodes 16 through 23, we're kind of in the end game of this season now. And it's not going to look good from here on out. This is, I think, the last beach party these people are going to get for a little while.
Well, Frogert's going to be part of the last beach party that they really get. But one thing I'm curious about is this knockout gas that the others use. So they use it on Jack, Kate, Saeed, and Juliet. Juliet wakes up first, goes to Kate, handcuffs them together, drags them all the way out of the jungle, and then lies next to Kate, presumably until Kate wakes up. They have their whole night adventure and make it back to Otherton at sunup, where they find Jack still unconscious in the house. And then Saeed, I think, is also just getting revived around that time. So,
well, Saeed says that he has already taken the time to go around and check all of the other houses. So he woke up earlier as well. Jack has just been asleep for at least 12 to 14 hours.
So it's like the bigger you are, the longer it takes the gas to wear off, apparently.
Well, I mean, I just think that, as a doctor, you take advantage of all the sleep you can get. And so he's I'm just going to sleep till somebody wakes me up.
It would be funny if he did wake up in the middle of the night and then realize that it was completely dark and quiet and there was no one there to harass him or blackmail him or threaten him into doing something. And was just like, I'm going to pull up a piece of this floor. This house has air conditioning.
Hell yeah.
I've been knocked out all night. What's happened?
Yep. I can't remember exactly what happens. I'm sure one of you two will. You're very good at that. But it took Kate this long, to figure out that she is the cause of all these problems because she doesn't listen.
Yeah, it's first when she confronts her mother in the bathroom of the restaurant, her mom lays out that you blew a man up. You're like, yes, he used to beat me. He was abusive, and that's bad and wrong.
But I loved him.
And you exploded him. And as we've discussed before, low-key, implicates her mother. Mom's going to be pissed about that. And also, again, when she is talking to Jack at Otherton in the morning when they get there, and Jack's like, I told you not to come back for me. Her coming back is the reason that Locke was there in the first place, to blow up the submarine. And if he hadn't been there and Ben hadn't been able to figure out a way to stop them, Jack and Juliet could have been gone and the rest of the show wouldn't have happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would that was the point. Yeah.
There is, after all of that, though, we're going to give a rare moment of praise to Evangeline Lilly, who's a perfectly fine actress. It's not her fault that the writing is shitty, but she does get a really great reaction to Jack. When she informs Jack that everyone's gone, he looks at her and says, even Juliet, and the look of hurt on Kate's face is priceless. And we find out near the end of the episode, last time we see Kate talking to Cassidy, Kate is the one who told Cassidy that she should just call the cops on Sawyer. In his last flashback episode, we find out that he is in jail because Cassidy sold him out. Kate is the reason that he went to jail.
She's the cause of all the problems.
That would have been another great one to find out. Her just casually drop. Yeah, I knew this woman named Cassidy who's a scummy ex-boyfriend and knocked her up, so I convinced her to send the guy to jail for Sawyer to just slowly turn his head and look at her like, are you fucking kidding me?
Sawyer's got enough on his plate for the rest of the season dealing with, the people who caused his past trauma.
And the last note that I took for this episode, I'm pretty sure the only reason that the two plans we see them pull off in this episode work is because they were Cassidy's plans.
Yes.
Both times that Kate tries to see her mom, they work according to plan. The first one was just to see how much heat Kate really had and who was going to be waiting for her. And the second one was to get her alone with her mom. Those had to have been Cassidy's. That was something that she thought up.
Well, we see Kate's own plan to get alone with her mom way back in season 1, and it gets her childhood sweetheart killed. So, yeah, her plans are not nearly as good.
Well, the last thing we're going to talk about, I updated the relevant dates portion of it because today, as we're recording this, it's Friday, May 23rd, and it was around this time of year, 6 years in a row, that we got a Lost season finale.
Wow.
May 25th, 2005, Exodus Parts 2 and 3 aired. That was episode 124 and 25. May 24th, 2006, Live Together, Die Alone, Parts 1 and 2, which was season 2, episodes 23 and 24. On this day, 18 years ago, in 2007, Through the Looking Glass, Parts 1 and 2, which is the end of this season, season 3. Then May 29th, 2008, There's No Place Like Home, Parts 2 and 3, which are episodes 13 and 14 of season 4. Going back a little bit for season 5, on May 13th, 2009, The Incident, Parts 1 and 2. And then again, so 15 years ago today. I guess it is kind of thematically appropriate that we end up recording today instead of 2 days ago. May 23rd, 2010, The End, Parts 1 and 2. The series finale.
So 15 years ago, I was bawling my stupid eyes out.
I've seen people sharing clips of the show's like last 3 minutes on social media, and I've deliberately skipped past it because I want to watch that again with all the weight behind it.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to remember what I remember about the finale, but it's at this very moment of recording. It is 8:23 p.m. at night. PM at night. That's ATM machine pin number. So the episode, like part 1 of The End, we'd be about 20 minutes into it, and I have no idea what would have been happening around that time. So we wouldn't all be devastated yet, but we would be on the way.
Yeah.
And yes, I added Razzle Dazzle to the list of best line deliveries. So now it's Jack screaming, "I married her." Locke saying, "You want your $30 back? I want my kidney back." Son awkwardly saying, "I need a pregnancy test." And then an actually good line, so it probably shouldn't be in this list. Jack saying, "I didn't say I was going to do it. I just want you to understand how you're going to die." Bai Ling saying, "I am not a tattoo artist." Hurley's "Shut up, redneck man," and Razzle Dazzle.
So who can be sad about Nikki and Paolo when we have that to remember them by?
Me.
Exactly.
I could still be mad.
All right. I said at the beginning we would give a little hint about what our next meal is going to be, but I think we should save that.
Yeah. In case we come up with a better idea also.
Yeah, between now and Monday. So hopefully this episode, or our next episode, will come out around the same time next week. Robert, social media or the thing that you're enjoying at the moment?
Wow, it's been a rough week. I'm not enjoying a lot right now. I'm in a show. I'm in Puffs. That's been fun to work on. So yeah, I've already talked about that at the start of the episode.
Cara, social media or a thing that you're currently enjoying?
So I am currently enjoying a bunch of new places I've found records that I can look up for my family history and all the other ancillary people I do history for.
Nice. For social media, if you want to find me online, the best place to do that is on Instagram at DBHensley. A thing that I'm enjoying right now is preparing for Hamlet. We've got auditions for that coming up this coming week, and I will be directing that starting at the end of June. So we have that to look forward to. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, of which there aren't really any more, it's pretty much just Long Walk Talks Lost, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Razzle Dazzle.
Razzle Dazzle.